Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Maine SBDC webinar. My name is Kelsey, and I'm with the state office at USM. We were joined today by Alison Lane, who is a Maine SBDC business advisor at CEI, and we'll be going over stirring up the pot with online reviews. So how do you get reviews, and then what do you do with the reviews once you've gotten them? So we'll be going over some techniques for getting more reviews and also talking about how to handle reviews either positively or negatively. We've got some good examples. So if you have any questions along the way, feel free to pop them in the chat below. Also, introduce yourself. Let us know who you are, where you're from, and maybe what industry you're in. Also, if you have an example of a crazy review you got for your business, throw that in the chat. Maybe we can help you come up with a response. Definitely we'll have time for Q&A at the end. So if any of your questions aren't answered along the way, we'll have time for that. And then you'll also receive a follow-up email from me that will include the link to the recording and the slides and any other resources that we mention throughout the day. So keep an eye out for that. Yeah, otherwise, enjoy, and I will pass it over to Alison.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us this morning. I think you will be entertained and pleased with our presentation today. I'm going to start sort of the standard webinar format. We're going to go through some slides. I'm going to talk at you about how to get reviews and where you should be getting reviews and how to respond to reviews. And then we're going to look at some examples, and it's going to be fun because we're going to kind of pick them apart a little. And I'm hoping you all will get involved in the comments and share your insight as well, because I am not you know, the goddess of reviews that knows everything. So my opinion is my opinion. But hopefully you'll leave today with some best practices and an idea of what you should and shouldn't do. And like Kelsey said, if you've got a review that you're struggling, if you're hopping on this webinar because you're hoping that I'm going to help you with a specific review, like, you know, we can talk about that. We can do that. Or we hopefully at this point, you know that at the SBDC, we offer confidential one-on-one advising. So if you're struggling to deal with a review, we can certainly connect one-on-one at no cost to you, and it will be completely confidential. So if you don't want to comment and talk publicly, we can talk privately as well. And at the end of the presentation, you'll see the link to register for advising as well. So let's get started. First of all, there we go. I'm going to wake up my slides. Just a little bit of housekeeping. As Kelsey said, this is being recorded. And you'll be sent the recording afterwards. So any links that you see in my slides, you'll be able to, in the follow-up email, you'll get the PowerPoint, you'll be able to click the links. Keep yourself on mute, please. You know, anything you want to say, please say it in the chat, but we do have a decent sized group today. So please keep yourself on mute and put any questions or comments in the chat. So let's start by just briefly talking about soliciting for reviews. So where can you be getting reviews? Well, there's your basic sites, your social media sites, your sort of generic, you know, Google My Business, Facebook, Yelp is a fairly generic one. These are probably the most common places. Google and Facebook are the top two by far that you might be looking for reviews. Then there's some industry-specific review sites like Angie's List and TripAdvisor. Angie's List is more independent contractors, you know, handymen, plumbers, electricians. And then you've got your TripAdvisor for the tourism-based businesses and hotels. So there's some specific industry-specific review sites that might apply to your business as well. There are also your review sites that are less about marketing and have other purposes, which these are not really the focus of our conversation today. So the Better Business Bureau, I think of as being more of a review site if you've done something bad. Typically, no news is good news as far as getting reviews on the Better Business Bureau site. And then there's Glassdoor for like employees to review their employers. So those are review sites, but we're not necessarily going to get into them today. And then there's the option to get testimonials on your website, which again, we're not really going to get into testimonials today. It's sort of a different subject for another day. But it's another way to get feedback, get public feedback from customers that can make you look good. In the case of testimonials, it's mainly, you're not going to post a testimony at your website that doesn't make you look good. And there's about a zillion sites that you can get reviews. You absolutely do not need to be everywhere. You shouldn't be. Just like with social media, you shouldn't try to be on every site. It's too much maintenance for you, and it's sort of muddies the water. It's like casting a wide net. You're going to be all over the place. Instead of having a bunch of quality reviews on Google, you're going to have a little bits and pieces of reviews here and there, and it's just not going to benefit you. So where should you be? It's going to vary for each of you, but generally, here's a list of the top 10 review sites. You can see Google My Business and Facebook are right up here. Amazon's also up here, but it's only for, if you're not selling a product on Amazon, it's not relevant to you. Yelp is fairly high as well. So just a general idea of how heavily trafficked these sites are. You should be where your customers are. That's the bottom line. If your customers are looking at Yelp, you should be on Yelp. If they're looking at Facebook, you should be on Facebook. If they're all looking at Angie's List, you should be on Angie's List. So the important thing is to be where your customers are and don't try to be everywhere. Why ask for reviews? This is probably a no-brainer. Some of the stuff in the beginning is a no-brainer, which is why we're going to kind of blow through it. But 88% of customers trust online reviews as much as personal recommendations, which is, I checked this statistic at a few different sites, and I saw there were some that said 85%, some that said 90, but 88 was pretty standard. I was really surprised by this because online reviews are typically strangers, but they're trusted almost as much as personal recommendations, which is really cool. So super powerful. 9 out of 10 consumers read reviews before making a purchase. And product pages that have reviews experience 3.5 times more more conversions to sales. So it's really part of it's not just getting people to look at your website. It's not just about building credibility, but it's really about converting that customer experience into an actual sale. So that's great. Why else? Aside from statistics, reviews obviously enhance your credibility. Again, a no-brainer. It allows you to interact with your customers, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It helps get you some feedback. I know I owned a restaurant before I was a business advisor, and I spent a lot of time reading my other local businesses reviews, other local restaurant reviews, to see if there were any common threads about what people were complaining about, just to get a feel for what's important to the restaurant customers in the Maine area. So that became a hobby of mine, fun hobby when you're not running your business. But as far as your reviews that you're getting from customers, the good and the bad, it can give you feedback and let you know what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. You obviously can't take every individual review at face value, and you can't take things to heart. But if you start seeing the same comments over and over again, then it might be something worth considering changing. You can seek reviews to improve your star rating. So most review sites, I shouldn't say most, because I know Facebook does it a little differently now, but some review sites give you a star rating, 4 stars out of 10, 4 stars out of 5, or 8 stars out of 10, or whatever. Obviously, negative reviews, they bring your star rating down. So if you seek more positive reviews, it can increase your average star rating. And search engine optimization. So just like having a website or a social media page that people are interacting with a lot, having reviews that that you're interacting, you're responding to, people are responding to your site, people are clicking around. The more people do stuff on your website or your social media page or your Yelp page or whatever, the more search engines see you as relevant, and the easier it's going to be that when people search for businesses in your industry, they're going to find you. So reviews are another mechanism to improving your search engine optimization. So how do you ask for reviews? What are some best practices to get reviews? It's amazing how many times I look at somebody's Google profile, you know, a business that's been around for a long time, and they have like 3 reviews on there. And it's like, why? You know, you have such good feedback from in the public, you know, your name is known around town, but why do you only have 3 or 5 reviews on Google? Like there's no reason for that, except for the fact that people just don't think to go in and review unless they have a particularly bad or a particularly good experience. So sometimes you kind of have to give them a little bit of a nudge. We talked earlier, you know, don't try to be everywhere, because if you're asking reviews on 6 different sites, I'm sorry, your customers aren't going to go to 6 different sites and give you a review. Or if they do, it's just going to be a star rating. They're not actually going to write anything, or they're going to write 1 sentence that is not actually as credible as if they wrote a paragraph. Make it easy for them. So give them an easy link from your social media page or your website. Make it so they can just click it and go. We're gonna go through a few strategies how to make it easy as well. Be cautious as far as asking for reviews. So this little example I posted over here, like us on Facebook, post a review to be entered into a drawing. It's okay, because they're not saying post a good review. So you don't want to bribe people for a good review, but it is okay to offer an incentive to leave any review. But just be cautious. You don't want it, you know, hey, if you go leave me a review, I'll give you a discount. That's not okay, because then that review, although it might, nobody would ever know, it's not ethically okay. Signage in your store, reminding people that reviews are important. I think customers, you know, I go to a million different places on a monthly basis, and how many do I actually go in and leave a review? Even if I had a really good experience, I don't think of it. You know, we're busy people, which is why you have to make it easy for them. I like it when my phone pops up and it says, hey, you just went to whatever, this local business. What did you think? Tell other people. It's creepy, but it's great that my phone does that, because it pushes me to leave more reviews. But you can certainly do that as well by, you know, signage in your store or online when they go on your website. Maybe for a period of time, you put that, your call to action at the top of your page is leave me a review. Strike while the iron is hot. So you don't want to necessarily ask for a review after somebody's had a bad experience. But if they've just had a really good experience and they're talking to you about it, that's a good time to say, hey, can you put that in writing for me? Or even if it's not a review, can you leave me a testimonial that I can, you know, put on my website? So strike while the iron is hot. And then just to note, there's a difference between getting feedback, getting reviews, getting testimonials, doing surveys. Those are all very different things and serve very different purposes. Today, we're focusing on reviews. So we're focusing on public displays of what they, you know, how their experience was in your business. And we're talking about sort of reviews in the aggregate. So looking as a whole at a lot of people, as opposed to just testimonials here and there. That doesn't mean that it's not also beneficial for you to seek private feedback from people or conduct surveys of your customers for market research. So there's definitely purposes for all of those things. It's just not the topic that we're going down the road of today. One thing that was interesting when I ran my business, I did a virtual suggestion box where I basically, it was an anonymous thing. And I just said, hey, leave me, I think I might've asked a couple of questions. Actually, no, I think I just had like one open box. I put a survey out through Google Forms or something and had an open box and just said, tell me what you think. And I gave them a couple of little prompts just to get them thinking. And I got a lot of responses and a lot of insight. A few people made comments. I found those common threads of things that were actually important to people. And I was able to make some changes, and I posted to my social media, hey guys, thank you for the responses to my virtual suggestion box. I just wanted to address a few of the comments and here are some of the changes that we're making. And so a little bit different than reviews, but obviously beneficial. Oh, and I should note, I do see comments coming in, and I'm going to wait till the end to look at them, because otherwise I will go off on a tangent and be more all over the place than I already am. So just briefly, I almost didn't put this in here, but I think you all know and it's obvious, just be ethical. So don't, like earlier when we talked about don't solicit good reviews, don't offer incentives for good reviews, don't fake it. You can get kicked off of review sites. They all have different terms and conditions. You don't necessarily need to read the terms of service. They're pretty obvious, but if you think you're doing something shady, you probably are. As far as ways to ask for reviews, if you have an email list, you can ask via email. I found this sample online of just a nicely written email that we're going to talk about why it's nicely written, but just a nice little explanatory, hey, leave us a review. I really like this because they made it personal. So they used her name, Sarah. They thanked her for being a customer for 3 years. So they're letting her know that she's just not another person. They're not just sending out a mass email to 200 people, which makes it a lot less likely to be ignored. They explained what they're doing. So they said, we want online reviews. It helps people. It helps us get business. I like the term feedback. If they hadn't have explained in the previous sentence that this link is going to take them to get a review, it might have been a little bit shady to refer to it as feedback, but they did explain what they're doing. And then they just, the ask became feedback instead of review. Because sometimes customers, when they think of review, it's kind of intimidating, like, well, I don't want to say anything bad about you or whatever. So feedback encourages honesty. And they made it really easy for this person. So they put the link right there in the email. So the person can click to it. Assuming it's just sort of a one box survey, maybe a star rating, it's going to take them 3 minutes to do. It's not like a 3-page survey or anything. So they made it really easy for this person. Google My Business is a big review site. They actually have they have a marketing kit that they can send you for free. It's not something that I knew about until recently, and a lot of my clients don't know about it, but it's free, and it basically, Google does it because it helps promote Google. So it's, there's the Google logo right on a sticker on the window of your storefront. So it helps them and their Google, so they can do this kind of thing. But yeah, so you should check out, like I said, you'll get the slides at the end of this presentation. So you should check out the link at the bottom here and go in. And if you have a Google My Business site, which I hope you do, and if you don't, you should. Yeah, you should try to encourage reviews by using their free marketing kit that they can send you. So shifting gears a little bit, kind of gone through the obvious, why you should seek reviews, and how to seek reviews, but let's talk about responding to them. So 90% of customers who read the reviews also read the responses from the businesses. So it's important to give a response, and it's important to craft that response professionally and have it accomplish what it needs to accomplish, which we'll get to. 45% of customers say they're more likely to visit a business if it responds to negative reviews, which is interesting. So people appreciate that you're not just sweeping those negative reviews under the rug. They like that they're being heard. So some best practices for responding. Do it. You should respond to almost all of your reviews, even the good, the bad. Just a quick thank you is fine. It shows that you're reading them and acknowledging them. When not to respond, there might be some circumstances where you shouldn't respond to a review. If it's like clearly spam, if it's something that somebody's going to read and know that it's not legitimate, you don't need to warrant it with a response. If it's so outrageous that it's, super ugly or blatantly spam, or someone that's not even a customer, you don't need to necessarily respond to it, but you should be responding to almost all of your reviews. You can rarely remove reviews. So if you get a bad review, there are different terms and conditions for all the different review sites. And I'm going to include some links later about how to actually have reviews removed that are spam or people trolling or not legitimate for whatever reason. But sometimes you'll get a bad review that you didn't deserve, or it is somebody trying to kind of sabotage you, and there's not much you can do unless it's part of the review site's policy to allow you to remove certain reviews, but it's not super common. Be professional. You're going to hear me repeat this many, many times because it's very easy when you get a bad review to get emotional and reply to it with your heart and not your head. So we'll talk about why that's not okay. Be brief with any response. Good rule of thumb, your response should absolutely not be longer than the review itself. And usually it should be significantly shorter, whether the review is good or bad. And be genuine, or at least appear to be genuine. It's hard. There is a balance, and you might need to seek help on that. If you can't find the right words to respond to the snarky bad review, you might need help, family member, friend, somebody that's good with words. I love writing and crafting responses and marketing. So please, if you're struggling, let me know. I'll help you craft that response. It'll be fun. So just briefly, responding to good reviews, because I said you should be responding to almost all of your reviews. So how to respond to good reviews: keep it short and sweet. Thank the person. Make it personal if you can. At least, use their name if they left their name in the review. Thank you, Susan. If you can acknowledge something about that person, thank you, Susan. We love seeing you in our Friday morning class. Something to acknowledge that they're not just a customer to you, that they're a real person. It'll make people feel good. It takes advantage of the benefit of interaction being one of the reasons you should seek reviews. Again, still keeping it short and sweet, but if you can kind of welcome them back, to me, by saying, thank you, Susan, we love seeing you in our Friday morning class, to me, that's also accomplishing the welcoming the back purpose, because it's saying, we like seeing you, keep coming, basically. And if in rare situations, take advantage of the opportunity to make an upsell or a suggestion, only if you genuinely think the person wants to hear it. Hey, I was in your shop the other day and I bought this necklace and it's beautiful and I love it. If you respond and say, thank you, have you noticed the matching earrings, like something like that. So be very cautious. I mean, this is not really a sales opportunity for you. This is more of just a relationship building opportunity. But if you really think they would benefit from the upsell, if you really think that they didn't notice the matching earrings and they would really love them, do it, but be genuine about it. And more challenging, what about best practices for responding to the bad reviews? First, take a breath. So don't respond when you're emotional or upset about it. Take 24 hours, take a couple of days. Doesn't have to be a quick response, but you should absolutely have had time to sort of, decompress, and you don't want to come at them. This is not a fight, even though sometimes you'd be tempted to make it so. And here we go, coming back to be genuine. I guess I should have probably, instead of saying be genuine, I should probably have said be genuine or fake genuine. Some bad reviews, you read them and you're like, oh, yep, they got me. Like, that was really true. But there are some bad reviews that you didn't necessarily deserve, or you don't feel you deserve, or they were snarky, or you think, the customer's not always right. But you have to try to be genuine in your response. Like I said, I can help you craft a response that appears genuine. And we'll look at some examples of responses that are not genuine in a minute here. Apologize to them. Just no matter what, you should include a brief apology. Validate what they're saying. So, start with, I'm sorry you had that experience. I understand how frustrating it can be when you can't find the product that you wanted in our store, or when we didn't show up on time for our appointment, and I understand how frustrating that can be. So let them know, kind of let them feel like what they said, you get it. Offer to fix to the best of your ability, hey, we'd love the opportunity to service you better next time. Can I offer you let's talk in private, send me a private message with an address that I can send a discount to. Or if you I'd like to give you the product that you were supposed to get in the first place for free, or, hey, now we have that in stock. Can I send it to you at half price or whatever? So, take some action, do something to fix what they're having a problem with, even if it's fixing it for future customers. Like, hey, I talked to my staff, we're really going to work on that because I don't want anyone else to have that experience. Sometimes you need to ask questions and understand what they're getting at. You don't want to respond and misinterpret something that they said. So it's okay to ask them a question and seek clarification. Another rule of thumb in a second here, though, we'll explain how to do that. Give your name, let them know, hey, I'm, Allie, the owner, or the manager, or whoever, just so they know they're talking to a real person. Keep that reply short, keep it brief, short, sweet. And if there needs to be continued conversation, so if you did ask a question and seek clarification, encourage a private message or a private conversation, or give them your phone number. There should not be dialogue happening after the reviews. There should be one response from you, and then anything further, if they start talking more, you need to shift it to be a private conversation. There's just nothing good to come from a dialogue that comes after a bad review. It's only drawing attention to that bad review. And sometimes, not super common, but when it's applicable, ask for an updated review. So if you really did fix the problem and they really did have a better experience when they came back, if you can find a nice, cordial way to say, hey, please leave us a new review. Like, we really appreciated your initial review. It gave us a chance to fix a lot of things. We'd love to hear a review of an updated review of your new experience. So this is another sort of caution, be careful with that. You don't want to sound like you're opportunistic is the right word, but just be cautious when asking for an updated review. And so what about, I call them ugly reviews. They're not always ugly, but they're the ones, you wouldn't call them good and you wouldn't call them bad. They're just different. And sometimes they're spam, sometimes they're inaccurate. Sometimes it's someone that thought they were reviewing one business, but they ended up on your page instead and left you a review. So how do we respond to those unusual reviews? So keep an eye out for them. Just be on the lookout for anything unusual. Here's an example of a review. Should publish menu and other info on restaurant. Poor marketing. Let's hope the food service and atmosphere are good. So this one, because of the date that it was posted before the business was even open. I think they had just made their Facebook page live and posted this. And so I guess you would kind of call this is a bad review. But to me, it goes into the sort of the ugly category because it's someone that hasn't even visited the business. And that was frustrating. But it's not one that you'd be able to get removed. Because it's not spam. I don't know a review site that would consider this one eligible for removal. So with this one, you should clarify. It would be a good opportunity to reply with a comment, and just say, thank you. I will get that menu up right away. Please visit us when we open on July 5th, 2015. So that way, when somebody a year from now reads that review, or someone, the following year, I know this was back in 2015, but that way they know that this comment was made prior to opening. So you can make it obvious in your response, please come visit us when we open. So people know that this review was not about the actual experience, although it should be kind of obvious from the review itself. Another example of a clarification, this was actually my business. Someone commented, friendly owner, can't wait to try the pizza. I never sold pizza. And I knew a local business nearby was starting to sell pizza. So I realized they were confusing us with them. So I just said, hi, so-and-so, thank you for the review, but I think you may have confused us with blah, blah, blah. So I clarified. I didn't want my other readers of my reviews to think that I sold pizza. I wanted them to be able to focus on what I actually sold. So this is not a bad review, obviously. It just goes into the ugly category because it's different. And true spam can often be removed if it's someone that, if it's just, it's the internet, spam happens. Every site has different policies, and I've put a couple links on how to remove Facebook and Google My Business reviews on this slide. it is in the best interest of the review platform to remove spam reviews. So don't hesitate to go through the process and figure it out. They make their money by being credible to the consumer. And if spam reviews are popping up left and right, it's going to make the review platform look just as bad as your business. So don't hesitate to take action to get it removed if it should be removed. And I found this great blog. It was really long. It's a lot more material than we're going to cover today about fighting review spam. Really interesting how to watch for spam, why spam happens. It lists a ton of review sites and how to handle spam and what their policies are. So definitely check that blog out. It's purple. The link that I've got on the slide is purple because I clicked on it before this and I haven't read it in its entirety, but it's quality material. So I'm hoping I haven't lost you all yet. My plan with this webinar was to talk at you for a few minutes, and then just as your eyes start to glaze over, we're going to shift gears a little bit and look at some actual reviews, and we're going to critique them. And like I said, I'm not the goddess of reviews, so these opinions, just like your customers reviewing you, it's my opinion, and I'll explain why I gave them the ratings that I gave them. But I do hope you will leave some comments in the chat with your thoughts. If you disagree with my rankings, let me know as far as, oh, hey, well, that review, you know, there was a sentence here that I thought was great and you criticized it. Why did you? So anyway, so let's make this sort of more of a dialogue. Leave your comments in the chat. Remember that I'm not looking at the comments in real time. So if you put a comment on the chat referencing one of my slides, you have to let me know which slide you referenced. Like, oh, the slide with the review about the cheesecake. You'll see that in a second. So yeah, so let's start. Start with some good reviews. Awesome place to get fit, very motivating and supportive staff, highly recommend. It's a good review, pretty straightforward. This person replied, which is great. They thanked the person. So step one, reply to the review. Step two, show appreciation. Step three, keep it short and sweet. They also added, we're so happy to have you, which to me is kind of a way to welcome people back. So 10 out of 10, simple, straightforward. If you don't agree with 10 out of 10, leave me a comment. Another good one, traveling through, great quick wrap for me, lovely strawberry salad for the wife, friendly owner, recommend highly. The response, thank you for the review. So glad you were happy with your experience. Same, you know, short, sweet, appreciative, sounds genuine, a couple exclamation points. With reviews, responding to good reviews, short and sweet, you don't necessarily need to leave your name like if it were a bad review. So this one, another 10 out of 10. Honestly, as I'm going through examples, I couldn't find examples of poor responses to good reviews. I think the only poor responses to good reviews I could find were the responses that didn't exist. So you don't need to overthink your responses to good reviews. One thing you should keep in mind, even though I'm telling you to respond to all your reviews, don't just copy and paste. Thank you for your reviews. So glad you were happy with the experience. Because if someone's reading your responses and they see that 25 times, okay, it's no longer genuine. So it's okay just to, you know, thank you, Bob. Thank you, Susan. And every now and then, if the review is a little bit longer and more specific, like this one mentioned the food, you know, adding an extra sentence is nice. So shifting gears a little, let's talk about bad reviews. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to read through this, and then we'll pick it apart a little bit. Put some comments in the chat if you've got things to say about it. And remember to refer to this as the cheesecake review if you do make any comments in the chat. All right, so let's pick it apart a little bit. If I can wake my slides up. There we go. So they started out by apologizing. Great, you know, check that box off. They suggested how they were going to take action. We will reach out to that vendor tomorrow morning to discuss the dating on the dessert to make sure it is satisfactory. Great. As a consumer, it's great to see like, hey, you're doing something about it. They offered an opportunity for a private message for further conversation. Great. 9 out of 10. So I took a point off of this. I don't know, perfection is hard when you've got a paragraph review response. I think my only struggle with it, it's a little bit long, but honestly, I don't even know what I would recommend they remove. I think I had a little bit of a problem with the word deeply. It's kind of, I don't know, it's a little bit less genuine. We deeply apologize. Like, really? Like, deeply? So anyway, but this is a very solid response for a lot of reasons. Let's look at one that is not so solid. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to read this. You don't have to read every word. You're going to get the point pretty quickly. And then we'll pick apart some of the highlights. All right, so this gem of a response. It's responses like this that inspired this webinar. So first of all, 12 comments. This conversation just kept going. It was an argument between the business owner and the reviewer. No, it should have become a private conversation for sure. Again, you're only drawing the eye to these negative reviews if there's continued conversation. Then people are going to read it like it's a soap opera, and that's what they're going to remember your business for. I don't care what the review says. I don't care how unprofessional, how wrong the review is. There is no reason for a response like this. There's no reason to argue like that. They were condescending. So again, you're just unprofessional here. You don't necessarily have to be uptight and super professional. You can go sort of on brand and be a little bit more casual with your response, but there's no reason to be passive aggressive or condescending. You know, they criticize the person's spelling error. Again, I don't care how bad the review is. There's no way your business is going to benefit from a condescending response to a bad review. It was unprofessional. I mean, obviously. And it was so long, it just kept going. I ran out of room on my slide to show you the whole response. No reason for it. There's just so much wrong with this. I only gave it a 1 out of 10 because they did respond to the review. So just having a response, I gave them that 1 point, but no, not okay. This is not a chance to air your dirty laundry. Here's one that's interesting. I love Jimmy John's, been ordering them. They got their order wrong the last few times, thinking about not ordering from them anymore. This one I copied and pasted from Google, which is why I left the business name in there. It's, you know, public. So Jimmy John's responded and said, "I'm all over it, Judy. Send me your address and phone number to facebook@jimmyjohns.com so I can gain your trust again." All right. All right. So I don't have a huge problem with this, but let's pick it apart. On brand. So I'm all over it, Judy. So I like that they put their language in it. You know, obviously they're a casual brand. That's the communication. They're, you know, and that's fine. That's not unprofessional. That's being on brand, and it's okay. They didn't apologize. So, you know, it would have been, I think, a nice little, "I'm all over it, Judy. Sorry about that." Staying on brand, but also offering that apology, something like that. They offered to take action. I really liked the way they said, "So I gain your trust again." That sounds genuine to me, makes sense. And they offered the opportunity for a private message so they could talk in more depth. So all in all, a pretty solid response. So key takeaways, and then, you know, happy to discuss like I said, I'll put some comments in the chat and we can talk. Reviews are very powerful. They have a lot of influence on potential customers, and you should be actively seeking them. You should respond to almost all of your reviews, good and bad, and be professional but genuine. So it's okay to be on brand, but keep it professional, not emotional, and be as genuine as possible with your language. Don't be over the top, but also don't be rude and condescending. So pretty straightforward there. So what do we have for questions? And I will put this up so you can see, like I said, happy to talk one-on-one. If you go to our website, mainesbdc.org, there's a big orange button at the top that says request advising. You can click that button. You can select Alison Lane if you want me as an advisor, or you can select a different advisor or let us disperse you based on where you're located. You'll be connected with the advisor in your area. It's all free and confidential, no obligations. So if you talk to us on the phone one time and say, hey, got this review and I just, I was inspired by Alison's webinar and I want to talk about this review. Can you help me respond to it? We'll do that one time. We don't have to work with you over the life of your business if you don't want us to. You'll probably get a survey from us asking how we did, but other than that, there's no obligation. So go ahead and request advising if you'd like it. And I will stop sharing my screen and we'll go through if anybody has questions or comments. I mean, this is a great webinar. Please share your opinion. I know you have it. We all do. Let's see what's in the chat.
Yeah, so Alyssa had a comment that the condescending response would be a good thing to write as a draft to get it off your chest and then go back later to pose a professional one. And I like that because it's very much the write the letter that you want to send and then don't send it. And I think that is a great way to diffuse your energy a little bit, circle back to it later. Mike also said that he's seen some businesses post signs with QR codes that direct you straight to their review site, whichever one they're utilizing. And I've seen that too, and it's super helpful for customers.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I always forget QR codes. I'm so behind the times, but QR codes are a great way to capture that in-person audience since not everybody's on your social media. Capture it in person, but make it convenient so they can do it right then and there. That's a great idea.
Yes, I agree. Rhonda asked about Instagram and how to use that best, but I'm not sure exactly what that means. I don't think is there a review section on Instagram?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but there might be in the new shop section. I don't actually know. I haven't utilized that. So Rhonda, if you want to clarify your question, please feel free to.
Yeah.
Oh, you muted yourself again.
I did it. Yes. Hi, Alison.
Hi, Rhonda.
Hi. Yeah, I'm an acupuncturist, so a lot of my clients are on things like Instagram. Do I have a page there and then people can comment? I mean, that kind of thing, that kind of conversation. Do I invite that? How? I haven't used it much, but just
I think as far as getting reviews, Instagram's not going to be the mechanism for it. I mean, obviously, and we can definitely have this conversation, the two of us.
Sure.
It'll be a great tool, social media wise, to inspire interaction with customers. But as far as seeking, and it might be a good place if you get testimonials from customers, get them to write a nice little paragraph that you get their permission to post it on your Instagram. That'd be great. As far as getting reviews, getting a star rating, getting the bulk review. Yeah, I don't, unless there's something I don't know about, and please somebody on here correct me, but yeah, I don't think Instagram has a rating system. Although they may someday. Seems like everybody's jumping on the bandwagon.
That's true because Facebook owns Instagram and Facebook does have extensive review scenarios on most of their platforms. So I wonder if that'll be something that comes out. Again, I'm not sure how the shop section of Instagram really works.
All right.
Hillary's saying for Instagram, you could include a link to a place to leave a review. That's true. So if you are in your profile on Instagram, there's one link available that you can add. So most people just have a link to their website, but also this link tree is a great thing to use if you're not already. And a lot of social media platform or like scheduling platforms have free ones. So Maine SBDC uses Later as a scheduling device, and our link tree is through that. So in that case, you could actually have one of the links that is always accessible as the review link. So no matter what other links you're suggesting people go to, if it's blogs or shops or classes or whatever, you could always have that review at the top for people to access.
And it would basically direct people to the review site of your choice. So maybe probably a Google My Business review may be the best one, unless your customers are really active on TripAdvisor or Yelp. One interesting thing, since I just mentioned Yelp, that I was going to point out. So Yelp is a bit different and can be a bit frustrating to business owners because they're selective about how they display reviews. So I remember when I had my business, there were like the top 3 reviews were the ones that Yelp determined to be the most credible, because it was reviewers that had left 1 million reviews and had earned their status as a Yelp star reviewer or whatever. So even though those 3 reviews weren't the most reflective of my business, they were the ones that Yelp chose to display because the reviewers were their favorites. So a little bit frustrating with that. So just be aware that if you go on your Yelp page and you see the top reviews are not reflective, it is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. Luckily, the other review sites aren't that way. So they give you, I think Facebook and Google give you the option to sort by most relevant or whatever. And I think they show the most recent reviews first just by default. So Yelp's a little bit weird like that. So just something to be aware of. So any other questions? I'm just looking and make sure we didn't miss anything in the chat. I really like that idea of composing get it off your chest. I don't know, when I would respond to reviews, it would take me longer. I overanalyze with my writing. And I'd type it out and I'd be like, oh, I should take that. I'd edit it like I was writing a book. And I'd spend a lot of time doing that. But yeah, if you want to respond right away and you're angry, just write yourself a nice little draft somewhere else and resist the temptation to make it public.
Yeah, maybe don't write the draft in the response box.
But don't
just on the off chance you accidentally hit enter. Just you could have like a review journal. It's just for your responses.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah, we all write those letters to our mothers, Lisa.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
Did anybody?
I don't see any other questions.
Anybody have any thoughts as far as some of my responses to the responses? Did anybody disagree? I mean, did anybody have a problem with the Jimmy John's response? Think that it was too casual or whatever? Anybody? I'm just curious if there were any thoughts or yeah, and of course, any other questions or we'll be pretty close to wrapping up, I think.
Rhonda, if you want to talk again, go ahead, but you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, but way back when, there was a very disturbed individual who was putting really bad responses on many practitioners, chiropractors in the area, my website, Facebook. It was clearly none of us had ever seen this individual, but who knows who else. And it was absolutely, no one even knew who she was, but she was doing the same review very maliciously across the board of a number of us, a number of people. And I didn't respond. This was years ago, but it's still there. And I was trying to get people, my people who knew me, write some reviews, to bury it. Is there a way to get that off? I mean, it's been years ago and it didn't do damage or anything. It was just a one-off, a disturbed individual, but it's there. It was, if someone went through all of those things for years, they would see it, but it would be obvious that it was not legitimate. But still, I didn't know how to get that off. And is there a way to?
Yeah, so a good strategy to bury it short term at least. But that sounds like one that you would, depending on the platform, it's an obvious spam if they're leaving it on other sites. It would depend on the platform. What I would do is that blog link in the PowerPoint, check that out, and or if it was on Facebook or Google, look at the links, because there are ways you can report it as spam and they can have it removed. But it's going to vary by the platform.
Okay.
But yeah, that definitely sounds like one that would be eligible for removal.
And we also hope that people are reading reviews with a grain of salt and that they can like smell the crazy and take that with a grain of salt. One that I saw that I loved was like a sandwich board in front of a restaurant or something. And it was like, come try the worst cup of coffee that one guy on Yelp had. Like, and so if you can kind of, you know, lean into some of it to diffuse it, that can help as well. We have one question that came in. Do you or your customers have any experience using third-party companies to respond to reviews? And I have never heard of that.
Me neither. And no, I don't. And I think it's because most of my clients and my experiences are the smallest businesses. So, you know, 5 or 10 employees or less. So, and I don't, time-wise, to me, it's not a huge time suck. It'd be really hard, I think, to get the same genuine response to a bad review. And I mean, hopefully you're not getting enough bad reviews that it's taking a ton of time. If I spend 30 minutes overthinking a response to a bad review, hopefully I only have to do that like once a month or so, or else I'm doing something else wrong. So no, I think maybe a larger business could benefit, but I think you'd lose the genuine, you know, and how much time does it really take to say thank you to a quick review? So no, I don't. If you know of any specific companies though, throw that name in the chat because it would be interesting to look into, but I do not.
Yeah, I was just going to say at VTSBDC, we started partnering with a company called Wide Whale in Vermont. And we were just trying them out. And I was wondering if you all had any experience, but they do some responses, but I think it's more they do the analytical work behind responses of seeing how like your response comes to the top of Google or how you, like you were saying with Yelp. So I was just curious if you had any experience with anything like that in your area. Thank you though.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll send the name in the chat.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see kind of like how your reviews are, like the analytics behind that. Because you're right. If you're assuming like, yeah, I'm responding to one bad review a month, that's not so bad. But what if you're only getting 3 reviews a month and one of them is always really bad? Like that's statistically you're not doing so hot. And so I wonder if that would be helpful to have a company that kind of spits out a report, so to speak.
And I think it also goes along with like, sometimes it's easy to read a bad review and want to please everyone. So maybe it's something that you kind of agree with the reader and it's something you wish you'd been able to offer, but you have to keep in mind that you can't please everyone. You can't make little changes to pacify little individual customers. It's all about making sure that you're satisfying your target market, your target customer, and that the decisions you're making, even though it's not necessarily worth the effort to add extra products or extra services or offerings just to satisfy that small bit of your audience, because it'll end up costing you more than it benefits you.
So is that why you didn't start making pizza?
Yeah. And I had people ask for pizza, but it was not something that was worth it. But it's very easy if you read a couple of reviews that mention pizza and it's like, oh, well, maybe I should. But that's where the analytics come in. It's like, okay, well, I had a bias as I was reading those reviews. If I saw pizza twice in one day, it's going to get my gears turning. But if it was just twice in one day out of 100 reviews this month, you know, yeah. So you got to be cautious not to take reviews or suggestions or feedback too much to heart, because you cannot please everyone.
I think that is probably the key piece of advice for the takeaway for today is do your best, but you will not be able to please everyone. And so how do you appropriately respond in those instances? Thank you so much, Alison. I thought this was wonderful. We're getting lots of compliments and thank yous in the chat. Want to be respectful of everyone's time. We're almost at 11. You will receive a follow-up email from me later today with a link to this recording and the slides. So all of those links that we mentioned, you'll be able to access. And as well as our contact information. So Alison's email will be in there and our big button to request advising if you're not already set up with a business advisor. And otherwise, thank you all so much for joining us. Yep, lots of thank yous coming in.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.